The joke that changed everything. The hall was filled with laughter. Nobles from across the galaxy gathered in the throne chamber of Baron Zelroth. The alien baron, tall and cruel, raised his glass and pointed at the human man standing silently in the corner. "This is Jack," the baron said, mocking, "A human warrior, strong but simple. He's done a few tasks for us, let's give him a reward." Everyone chuckled. "Jack," the baron grinned, "I give you my daughter as a joke bride. She's yours for 1 moon cycle. Do what you want. Then return her to me." Gasps filled the room. Some laughed, others stared in disbelief. The baron's daughter, Lysera, stood tall beside her father. Her silver dress flowed to the floor. Her glowing blue skin and soft eyes made her look delicate, but her voice was steady. "I will go," she said. No one expected that. Even Jack was surprised. He had seen alien cruelty, but he hadn't expected this kind of game. Still, he didn't speak. He only bowed slightly. "If she agrees," Jack said slowly, "I accept." More laughter. The baron clapped his hands and waved them off. "Take her and go. Let the joke begin." Later that evening, Jack walked beside Lysera in silence. The ship was small, dusty, and filled with human-made tools. She sat quietly as he prepared her a meal. "You're not afraid?" Jack asked. "No," she replied. "I'm used to being treated like I'm not real." Jack looked at her carefully. "Why did you agree?" Lysera touched her wrist, where a thin silver bracelet glowed. "My father gave me to punish me. He thinks I'm weak, but I saw you during the last battle. You saved children. You didn't kill when you didn't have to. I'd rather be your joke bride than stay in that palace." Jack didn't smile. He simply nodded. "There's only one bed," he said. "You can have it." She blinked. "You won't claim your rights?" "I don't take women like property," Jack said. "Even in a joke marriage." She stared at him, confused. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like a thing. She felt seen. Over the next few days, things were quiet. Jack taught her how to make earth food. She told him stories of the palace. They sat and ate in silence most nights, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was peaceful. One night, Lysera stepped outside to watch the stars. Jack followed, carrying a blanket. "You miss home?" he asked. "No," she said softly. "I miss being someone who mattered." "You matter here," Jack said. She looked up at him. "Why are you kind?" Jack didn't answer. Instead, he spread the blanket over her shoulders. "I've seen war, pain, suffering. You've seen it too. I don't want to add to it." Lysera felt something strange inside her, a warmth that wasn't fear. It was safety. Jack didn't treat her like a joke. He treated her like a person. A week later, they reached a small supply station. Other humans were there, miners and traders. Jack introduced Lysera as his wife. No one laughed. No one asked if it was real. She looked at Jack after they left the station. "You didn't have to call me that." "I did," he said. "Because you are. For now." Lysera didn't say anything. Her heart was beating fast. This human wasn't like the others. He wasn't using her. He was protecting her. That night, Lysera cooked for the first time. It was terrible. Jack still ate it with a smile. She laughed, really laughed, for the first time since she was a child. "Don't lie," she said. "It's awful," Jack said. "But thank you." She looked down. "Thank you, ma'am, for treating me like a real bride." He leaned forward slightly, searching her eyes. "You're more than that, Lysera. You're a person. No one should be used like a game." Tears formed in her eyes. She quickly wiped them. "I don't want to go back," she whispered. Jack reached out, placing his hand gently over hers. "You won't." Back on her father's planet, Baron Zelroth received a message. One of his spies reported that Lysera was still with the human and smiling. The Baron crushed the message tablet in his hand. "It was supposed to be a joke," he growled. "Why is this human still alive?" He turned to his advisor. "Watch them closely." But the Baron didn't know. His joke had already started to become something real. And Lysera? She was no longer a toy. She was a woman, standing at the edge of love. And something even more powerful growing inside her. Lysera sat on the edge of the small bed, fingers curled around a warm cup of something Jack called cocoa. It was thick, sweet, and unfamiliar, but comforting. The ship made soft humming, noises, and the outside stars blinked in silence. This place wasn't a palace. It had no glowing walls, no servants, and no fake smiles. It smelled like oil, iron, and cooked food. Yet somehow, it felt safer than anywhere she had ever lived. Jack didn't speak much. He wasn't rude, just quiet. His eyes watched everything, her expressions, her body language, the way her hands trembled sometimes when she touched human tech. He showed her how to use the heater, how to open food packs, and how to repair the water line in the kitchen. He treated her not as a wife to control, but as a crewmate. She was free to speak or stay silent, move or rest. At night, he gave her the bed while he lay on the cold floor with just a blanket. One evening, Lysera finally asked, "Why don't you sleep in the bed too? We're married, aren't we?" Jack didn't even look up from the tool he was fixing. "We're married because your father wanted to mock me. I didn't marry you for that reason until you say otherwise. This is your space. I won't cross that line." His voice was steady, almost emotionless. But that calm voice made her chest. No alien man, no noble, no soldier, had ever cared about her comfort. She had grown up being told she was beautiful but worthless, a symbol, a tool, a puppet. Now, this human, a man born on a planet her people once called primitive, was giving her something none of them ever did: respect. Lysera started watching him closer. She saw how he carefully saved every broken piece of wire and reused it, how he kept a photo of two small children on the wall, probably siblings or lost friends from Earth, and how he always looked away when she stepped out of the shower, even though she wore nothing but a towel. One morning she stood behind him while he cooked eggs and said, "You know, it doesn't feel like a joke anymore." Jack turned slightly. "What do you mean?" "I mean this," she waved around the room. "You and me. We live like a real couple. You talk to me. You protect me. You even eat my bad food." He chuckled softly. "It's not that bad." "Yes, it is," she said with a rare smile. "But I'm learning." Something gentle passed between them in that moment. Something soft, but unspoken. Not love yet, but maybe the beginning of it. A seed planted in dirt and silence. The next few days were different. She sat closer when they ate. She laughed more often. One night she helped him fix the engine and her hand brushed his. Neither pulled away. Later, when the storm raged outside the station window and lightning crashed in the dark void, she ran from her room and sat beside him on the floor. He looked at her, concerned. "Scared?" "Not scared," she whispered. "Just lonely." She leaned against him. He didn't move. She rested her head on his shoulder. He stayed still as stone, but she could hear his heartbeat change. Steady, then fast, then steady again. She fell asleep like that. For the first time, she wasn't cold. The next morning, Jack made coffee. He didn't speak about the night before. Neither did she. But everything between them had shifted. Then came the message. It blinked red on the console. A delivery drone had returned from the outpost nearby with supplies and a data chip. Jack inserted it into the console. A hologram flickered. Baron Zelroth's face appeared. Cold, disgusted. "Human," the Baron's voice echoed. "I heard my daughter still lives with you. You may play this game a little longer, but remember, she belongs to me." The joke. And soon, the message ended. Silence. Lysera stared at the screen, her fists clenched. "I'm not going back," she said. Jack looked at her, calm but serious. "I won't let him take you." Her voice cracked. "Even if he sends ships?" "I've fought worse," he said. Tears built in her eyes, but she held them back. "You're not like other men." "I'm just a man," Jack said quietly. "Who knows what it's like to lose freedom?" She stood, walked over, and placed her hand on his chest. "I want to stay, not because of safety, but because I feel like I matter here." He placed his hand over hers. Then you stay, as long as you want. She nodded. She didn't say what she was thinking, that maybe, just maybe, she was falling in love with a human, and somewhere deep inside her, something was already growing. The stars outside the ship were endless, silent and far away. Lysera sat at the window late into the night, wrapped in Jack's old gray jacket. It smelled like metal and ash, but also like comfort. She couldn't sleep, not tonight. Something inside her had shifted. She had spent weeks watching Jack, learning his quiet habits, his gentle strength. He never touched her, never asked for anything, never raised his voice. And that silence, that respect, had become louder than any scream she'd known before. Tonight, she couldn't hold it anymore. She stood from the window and walked through the hallway, each step careful, her heart racing. Jack's door was slightly open. He lay there, shirtless, his chest rising and falling slowly. His arm was over his face, the other across his stomach. Even in sleep, he looked like he carried 1,000 silent battles inside. She knocked once. Jack woke instantly, eyes alert, hand ready, but when he saw it was her, he relaxed. "Lysera," he said softly. "Are you all right?" She stepped into the room but didn't answer right away. She closed the door behind her, then looked at him with wide, glowing eyes. "I can't sleep," she said. He sat up slowly, concern on his face. "Nightmare?" She shook her head. "No, just, I've been thinking. About everything, about you, about me, and something I feel but don't understand." Jack looked down, unsure what to say. "You don't need to explain anything, Lysera. You're safe here." She stepped closer. "I know. That's why I'm here." Jack looked up again, eyes steady. "What are you asking me?" She reached out and took his hand, placing it on her chest just above her heart. It beat fast beneath his touch. "I want to feel what you feel," she whispered. "Not as a joke, bride. Not because I'm scared, but because I want this. With you." Jack's breath caught in his throat. He stared at her, trying to read her face. She wasn't trembling, she wasn't confused, she was sure. "Are you certain?" he asked, his voice low. "Yes," she said. "You've never treated me like a thing. You've waited. You've been patient. I want this to be real." Jack moved slowly, pulling her closer. He kissed her forehead first, then her cheek, and finally her lips. It wasn't rushed, it wasn't wild, it was warm, slow, deep. Like two souls finally meeting after walking alone for too long. Lysera closed her eyes as he touched her face with care, as if she was something fragile he never wanted to break. And for the first time in her life, she didn't feel like someone's property. She felt loved. They woke together, tangled in each other, the morning light from the small window falling across the bed. Lysera opened her eyes first. She looked at Jack's sleeping face, calm and strong. A small smile formed on her lips. She placed a kiss on his shoulder and whispered, "Thank you." Jack stirred and blinked. "Morning. Morning," she replied. "Are we different now?" Jack stretched and pulled her closer. "Maybe, but only if you want us to be." "I do," she said. "I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad my father gave me away." Jack frowned. "That's not something you should ever be glad about." "I know," she said. "But if he hadn't, I would have never found you." He smiled softly. "Then maybe." His cruel joke gave us something true. The next few days were filled with quiet joy. Jack showed her how to tune the ship's nav system. Lysera surprised him by picking up human engineering fast. They laughed more, cooked together, and slept wrapped in each other each night. But changes had begun, not just between them, but in her body. Lysera started waking up tired. Her skin felt hotter than normal. Her appetite changed. At first, she ignored it. She thought it was just stress or a reaction to the human food. But then one evening, she dropped the spanner she was holding and collapsed onto the chair, breathing hard. Jack rushed over. "Lysera, what's wrong?" I don't know. I feel dizzy, she said, her voice weak. He placed a hand on her forehead. You're burning up. They ran a scan with the ship's medkit. The screen blinked, then froze. Jack stared at it, his voice was barely a whisper. You're pregnant. Lysera looked at the screen, stunned. No, that's not possible. It's too soon. Jack sat down slowly. It says you're already weeks in. Maybe. Hybrid pregnancies are faster. She touched her stomach, a mix of fear and wonder in her eyes. My kind. We've never had children with humans. It's rare. Dangerous. My father will never allow this. Jack looked at her. We won't let him decide. Tears formed in her eyes again. Jack, what do we do? He reached out, took her hand, and held it firmly. We do what we've always done. We fight. Together. Lysera nodded. Her body shook, but her grip didn't loosen. That night, she didn't reach for Jack out of loneliness. She reached for him because now they were a family. The ship was quiet as Lysera sat alone in the engine bay staring at her hands. They were shaking. Not from fear, but from the weight of everything now inside her. Her body felt strange, warmer, alive, like something sacred had begun growing deep within her, something not fully alien, not fully human. A child. Their child. She placed a hand on her stomach, still flat, still unchanged to the outside world, but she could feel it, a quiet thrum beneath her skin. Jack walked in slowly, carrying a small blanket. He paused when he saw her, then knelt beside her without saying a word. Lysera leaned her head against his shoulder, and for a long while neither of them spoke. The silence between them was soft, filled with a new kind of fear and hope. Never thought I would carry life, Lysera said finally, her voice barely a whisper. My people see hybrid pregnancies as cursed. Most don't survive. The child might not be accepted by either side. Jack looked at her, his voice calm. I will accept it, always, no matter what it looks like, no matter how it grows. This child is ours. She nodded, tears gathering again. But I don't know what's coming. What if I get sick? What if it hurts me? What if it hurts them? Jack placed his hand gently over hers. Then we fight together, like always. He helped her to her feet. We need help, real help. Medical care. Lysera's heart sank. There's only one place that might understand alien pregnancies like this. My father's world. Jack's jaw tightened. He hated the idea, but he also understood it was the only real choice. The Baron's world had science far beyond what Earth had. They could scan, treat, and monitor hybrid development. And maybe it was the only way to save her and the baby. So he made a choice. He would go back to the very palace where this all began. The next morning, Jack prepared the ship's course. Lysera sat nearby, silent, watching him. She could see the tension in his movements, the way he clenched his jaw each time he thought. She wasn't looking. You don't have to do this alone, she said. He looked back. I know, but if your father tries to take you again, I won't just walk away this time. Lysera reached out, touching his face. You're not the same man who accepted a joke bride. You're something stronger now. Jack smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. So are you. 2 days later, the ship entered orbit over Baron Zelroth's world. The sky was black with silver clouds, the surface below dotted with towers and sharp light domes. Their landing was not soft, it was not meant to be. 2 guard ships scanned them before allowing a descent. Jack stepped off first, hands raised. He was met by 10 soldiers. Behind him, Lysera stepped down slowly, her hood over her head. Gasps followed. Lady Lysera? One guard whispered, stunned. She's with child. The soldiers backed away, uncertain. Their scanners were already blinking red. The data confirmed what they saw. Half human, half noble, a hybrid life form, an impossible one. Inside the palace, the Baron stood in front of his throne, face like carved stone. I expected you to come crawling, he said coldly. Jack stood tall. We need medical care for the pregnancy. The Baron's eyes narrowed. So it's true. You touched her. You mated with my daughter like a beast. Lysera stepped forward. I chose him. The Baron ignored her. That child is a threat to bloodlines. It should never have existed. Jack clenched his fists. It exists, and you're going to help. The Baron chuckled darkly. You forget your place, human. By our ancient laws, once a noble female carries life of mixed blood, the child and mother belong to the High House. You can't keep her. Jack stepped between Lysera and the guards. You'll have to kill me first. Gladly, the Baron said. He raised his hand, but then Lysera shouted, her voice ringing louder than any weapon. By right of birthstone, I invoke the mother's claim. The hall went silent. Every noble froze. Even the Baron stepped back. You can't. He started. I can, Lysera said. I carry royal blood. I choose this man. I choose this child. And I reject the chains of this house. The law was old, rarely used. But binding. The Baron's eyes blazed. But he could do nothing. He turned away. Leave, go back to your hole. But remember this, daughter. When that child is born, the blood it carries may attract others far worse than me. Jack took Lysera's hand, heart pounding. Let them come. That night, they flew away under a silent moon. Lysera lay in Jack's arms, exhausted but at peace. Their child had been claimed not just by law but by love. The stars behind them grew smaller as Jack's ship entered deep space, leaving the Baron's world far behind. Inside the ship, Lysera lay curled under a blanket, her eyes closed, one hand resting protectively over her belly. Her breathing was slow, peaceful. But Jack sat in the pilot seat, awake, watching the dark horizon ahead. His mind was not at peace. They had escaped, yes, but it didn't feel like freedom. Not yet. The Baron had let them go, but only because ancient law had forced him. Jack didn't trust that mercy. Zelroth wasn't a man who allowed insults to go unanswered, and this, his daughter, pregnant with a human's child, was more than an insult. It was a wound to his honor. Jack kept the ship's scanners running on high alert. He knew the Baron had shadow vessels, elite hunters who followed no rules. If even one of them was sent, they'd never see it coming. He looked back at Lysera sleeping and promised himself again, no one will touch her. Not while I'm breathing. A sharp beep broke the silence. A message signal. Jack opened it slowly. The words on the screen were simple. The joke is over, human. The child is mine. The daughter is mine. You will return them, alive or in pieces. There was no name. There didn't need to be. Jack stared at the screen, then shut it off. The next morning, Lysera woke with a strange feeling in her chest. It wasn't pain, more like a tightness, a warning. She found Jack near the engine room checking a panel. You didn't sleep, she said softly. He glanced at her, eyes tired. Didn't want to. You saw something, she added. I can feel it. Jack hesitated, then nodded. He sent a message, said he wants you and the baby back, threatened to take you by force. Lysera's face went pale, but she stood tall. He can't touch us, not anymore. Jack looked down. He can try. And if he does, we have to be ready. That day, they didn't rest. They reinforced the ship's shields, scanned the route ahead, and packed emergency pods just in case. Jack even reprogrammed the ship's AI to send a distress call if they were attacked. Lysera wanted to help, but her hands trembled too much. Her body was changing. Fast. The child inside her was growing faster than expected. Jack noticed. You need to rest, he said gently. Let me handle this. I want to fight too, she whispered. He reached for her hand. You already are. That night they sat together, in the engine room. Jack had made a small firelight inside a jar. Lysera leaned against his shoulder as they shared a simple meal. Nothing fancy, just warm. He spoke first. "Do you regret it?" he asked. "Us. This child." She looked at him like he was mad. "Never. You gave me more than a home. You gave me a life I never knew I deserved." He sighed. "I just wish I could give you peace." She smiled faintly. "You already did. The moment you didn't laugh when I was handed to you like a toy." Jack kissed her forehead. "Then I'll fight to keep that peace." And he meant it. 3 days passed. Then it happened. Alarms screamed. The ship shook. Something had attached to their hull, silent, invisible, fast. Jack jumped to the controls. Stealth vessel, no signature. It's his assassin crew. The lights flickered. Systems dropped. Lysera ran to the wall panel. "They're disabling the power. They're trying to board." Jack grabbed a weapon from under the console. "Get to the pod. If they breach, you launch." Lysera stood firm. "I'm not leaving without you." Jack turned to her, voice hard. "If they get you, this child is gone. You are the priority." She opened her mouth to argue, but stopped. She saw it in his eyes. This wasn't about pride, it was love, pure and raw. She nodded. "Okay, but you come back." "I swear." She ran. The ship shook again, this time louder. A hole ripped open in the side wall. 2 armored figures stepped through with glowing eyes and long rifles. Jack didn't hesitate. He fired first. One went down. The second returned fire, hitting Jack's shoulder. He dropped to one knee, but then with a roar lunged forward and smashed the soldier's mask with the butt of his weapon. The body dropped. Jack stood, bleeding, but still breathing. In the pod room, Lysera had her hand on the launch button when Jack limped in, half covered in smoke and blood. She cried out, "You're hurt." "I've been worse," he groaned. "Let's go." They launched the emergency pod toward a nearby moon. The ship behind them exploded, a bright bloom in the black sky. As the pod floated silently through space, Lysera held Jack's hand tightly. "You saved us." Jack shook his head. "No, you saved me. The moment you didn't laugh either." She leaned against him. They had lost their ship, but they still had each other, and the child of 2 worlds still lived. The escape pod landed hard on the icy moon, its surface cracked and lifeless. Smoke rose from the dented metal shell as the door hissed open. Jack stumbled out first, holding his bleeding shoulder, then turned to help Lysera. She stepped out slowly, both hands protectively cradling her stomach. The cold bit into her skin, but she didn't complain. The baby moved, inside her, small but strong. It was still alive. That was all that mattered. Jack looked around. No cities, no signals, just frozen cliffs and silence. They were alone, but safe. For now, he built a fire using scraps from the pod. Lysera sat wrapped in thermal cloth while Jack patched up his wound with trembling hands. His face was pale, and the gash in his shoulder looked deep. "You need rest," she said softly. "I will, after I know we're not being tracked," Jack replied. Lysera touched his arm. "You fought for me, for our child. You almost died." Jack met her gaze. "I would do it again and again. I don't care if your father sends 1,000 soldiers. I will not give you up." She leaned closer. "And I will not run anymore." They stayed like that, close together, under the wide, alien sky. By morning, the cold had crept deeper into Jack's wound. His body burned with fever. He tried to stand, but fell back against the icy wall. Lysera rushed to him, tears in her eyes. "I need to get help," she whispered. "But there's no one here, no signal." She opened the emergency beacon but hesitated. Activating it could call friendly ships, or enemies. But she had no choice. Jack was dying. She pressed the button. Hours passed. Jack drifted in and out of sleep, his skin growing colder. Lysera sat beside him, whispering stories about Earth and stars and the strange names of human food. She hoped her voice would keep him tethered to life. Then, finally, a ship appeared. It was not from her father. It was a civilian trade vessel responding to the distress beacon. The captain, a gray-haired woman from Mars, took them aboard without asking questions. She saw Lysera's swollen belly, Jack's wounded body, and said only one thing. "You're safe now." Inside the medical bay, Jack was treated. Lysera stood beside him every moment. When he finally opened his eyes again, she smiled through tears. "You didn't die," she whispered. "Couldn't leave you alone with a half-finished house," he mumbled. She laughed softly. "We don't even have a house." "Then I better live long enough to build one." 2 weeks later, they arrived at a human settlement on the edge of the neutral zone, an old farming colony surrounded by dust fields and sky. Jack rented a small cabin on the edge of the hills away from crowds. He walked slowly now, still healing, but alive. Lysera filled the space with warmth, cooking meals she barely knew how to prepare, but Jack ate everything anyway. She decorated, the walls with cloth, stones, and tiny lights. Every day the baby kicked stronger. She began humming lullabies she didn't even know she remembered. Life returned in small pieces, but danger still followed. One morning, Jack stepped outside and froze. A figure stood by the gate. Not a soldier, not her father. Lysera joined him, her breath caught. It was Baron Zelroth, alone. No weapons, no guards. Just him, his long cloak blew in the wind. "I didn't send the assassins," he said calmly. "They acted without my command. I punished them." Jack didn't believe him. "You came here to take her back," Jack said, hand near his weapon. "No," the Baron replied. "I came to see the result of my mistake." His eyes moved to Lysera's stomach. "When I gave you to him," he said to her, "I never imagined you would make something real." Lysera stepped forward. "You never saw me as more than a symbol. Now I am a mother." "You were supposed to be a joke bride," the Baron whispered, voice tight. "But now, you are a legend." He turned to Jack. "This child, our blood, may one day change everything. That power must be protected and feared." Jack stood tall. "It will be loved, that's enough." The Baron didn't argue, he stepped back. "When the child is born, send word. I will not take them, but I will watch from afar." Then he turned and walked into the fog. That night, Lysera sat in Jack's lap by the fire, his arms wrapped around her as the wind howled outside. Her head rested on his chest. "He didn't try to fight," she whispered. "He's afraid," Jack said. "Of what?" Jack looked down at her belly. "Of what love created." She closed her eyes. They had fought, through cruelty, war, bloodlines, and betrayal, and still they stood together, not because of a joke, but because of choice. The wind outside their small cabin had softened. The snow that once fell in biting storms now melted gently against the glass. Spring was coming to the edge of the neutral zone, and with it came new life. Inside, Jack paced the room, sweat on, his brow, his hands trembling. But it wasn't from fear of battle this time. It was something far scarier, for a man who had faced alien beasts, burning skies, and noble armies. Lysera was in labor. She lay on a bed of soft blankets, gripping his hand tightly. Her face was pale, her breathing sharp. A kind old healer from the colony sat at her side, whispering encouragement. There were no fancy machines here, no advanced alien tools, just warmth, cloth, boiled water, and hope. Jack had never felt so helpless. He had fought to protect Lysera with blood and strength, but now she fought alone with nothing but her own will. Hours passed. Lysera screamed, then fell silent. And then, suddenly, there was a sound. Not a war cry, not an alarm, a baby's cry. Soft. Real. Alive. Jack's legs nearly gave out. The healer smiled and placed the small, wriggling child in Lysera's arms. The baby was unlike any being they'd seen. Skin pale like moonlight, eyes deep hazel with silver sparks, a soft tuft of black hair, and tiny fingers that reached for her mother's face. Lysera was crying. Silent tears, full of peace. Jack dropped to his knees beside her. "She's perfect," Lysera whispered. Jack placed his hand on the baby's back. The child curled toward him, warm and trusting. "Our daughter," he said quietly. "A child of two worlds." "No," Lysera said, looking into Jack's eyes. "A child of love." They named her Sana, which meant peace in Lysera's ancient tongue. And peace is exactly what she brought. Each day after her birth was a little brighter. Jack built furniture from old scrap, turning their cabin into a home. Lysera planted seeds around the edge of the house, watching green life slowly return to the frozen soil. At night, they would sit by the fire with baby Sana curled against Lysera's chest, as Jack read stories from Earth books. Sometimes Lysera would hum lullabies, some human, some alien. Sana listened to them both with wide, curious eyes. She was calm, quiet, always watching. Even at just a few weeks old, she seemed to understand things no child should. "She sees everything," Lysera said once. "Like she already knows this world will not be easy." Jack kissed their daughter's forehead. "Then we'll make it easier. For her." One day, a ship appeared above the valley. Jack was outside, cutting wood, when he saw it descend. He froze. Lysera stepped outside holding Sana. Her eyes narrowed, but the ship didn't fire. It didn't hover in threat. It landed carefully on the far edge of the field. Out stepped an old man in royal robes, Baron Zelroth, unarmed, alone. He walked slowly, limping slightly. His proud figure was older now. The sharp cruelty in his face had softened, but his eyes still held something unreadable. Lysera clutched Sana close. Jack moved to stand between them. The Baron stopped 10 feet away. "I will not stay long," he said. Jack didn't respond. The Baron's gaze fell on the baby. His lips parted, but no insult came. "She is strong," he said. "She is ours," Lysera said coldly. The Baron nodded. "And I will not take her." Jack narrowed his eyes. "Then why are you here?" The Baron looked at Lysera. "To say that I was wrong. I thought love was weakness. I thought blood was everything. But your strength, your child, has made me wonder." He reached into his coat and pulled out a small glowing crystal. "This is a name stone," he explained. "It is placed in the Hall of Records. I have written her name in it. Sana, daughter of Lysera, born by her will, not mine. Let history know." He dropped it gently to the earth and turned to leave. "You could have killed us," Lysera said behind him. "I tried," he replied without turning back. "And I failed." He paused. "This child will one day be greater than all of us. That is my last gift, knowing it." Then he left. Years passed. Sana grew faster than normal children. Half human, half noble blood made her sharper, stronger, and wiser. By age 3, she could speak both languages. She asked questions about the stars, about war, about peace. She wanted to know why people hurt each other. Jack taught her Earth's history. Lysera taught her about ancient noble wisdom. But together, they taught her what no book ever had: compassion. Sometimes travelers came to the colony and whispered stories of a noble daughter who married a human warrior, of a child born from a joke that turned into legend, of a man who built a home out of love, not metal, and in those stories people found hope. One quiet evening, Jack sat on the porch, watching the twin suns fall behind the hills. Lysera came out wrapping a blanket around him, Sana running ahead chasing fireflies. Jack smiled, wrapping an arm around Lysera. "We started with a joke," he whispered. Lysera rested her head on his shoulder. "No," she said gently. "We started with a choice, and the stars above them, so silent and far, seemed to glow just a little warmer. For the man, the woman, and the child of two worlds, who chose love over everything else."